A senior Ukrainian intelligence officer has been shot dead in broad daylight in central Kyiv in what officials believe is a targeted assassination. Just a word of caution here. Some viewers may find the following details disturbing. Colonel Ivan Voronich, a top operational officer in Ukraine Security Service, was shot 5 times at close range by an unknown assailant wielding a silenced pistol. The hit unfolded as Voronich crossed a quiet street in Kyiv near a block of flats. And without warning, a lone figure approaches, draws a weapon fitted with a suppressor, and fires 5 deadly rounds into the colonel. Voronich died at the spot, and the gunman vanished without a trace. A former Ukrainian MP blames Russian special services, claiming this is all the hallmarks of a Kremlin-style targeted killing. The assassination fueling tensions in an already shadowy war where both Ukraine and Russia regularly carry out covert eliminations. Since the full-scale war started in February 2022, a string of high-profile figures have been hunted down and killed far from the front lines. In December, Ukraine's spy agency reportedly killed a Russian general and his aide in the heart of Moscow. In April, General Yaroslav Moskalik was killed when his car, packed with an improvised bomb laced with shrapnel. In fact, Russia responds with its own deadly operations. In September 2024, Russia's spy agency reportedly killed a Ukrainian spy, allegedly plotting to assassinate a senior defense executive. The war between Russia and Ukraine is no longer confined to trenches and missiles. It's being fought in whispers, back alleys, car parks, crowded streets. As espionage turns bloody, the spy war is becoming as lethal as what we are seeing on the battlefield. Ukraine has arrested 2 Chinese nationals, a father and son, for allegedly spying on its Neptune missile program. Ukrainian security officials saying the pair attempted to steal classified documents related to the country's homegrown anti-ship missile, allegedly a crucial part of Ukraine's defense against Russia. The Neptune missile system is a long-range anti-ship cruise missile designed to target naval vessels. Authorities in Kyiv saying the son, a 24-year-old former student, was arrested first after Ukraine counterintelligence officials provided him with technical documents related to the production of the Neptune system. Shortly after, his father was taken into custody. Investigators claiming the father coordinated with Chinese intelligence and traveled from China to oversee the operation personally. And Ukraine's intelligence agency accused the father of planning to smuggle the missile data out of the country and hand it over to Chinese authorities. China's foreign ministry saying it is gathering and verifying information on the matter.
Regarding the case of a Chinese father and son detained by Ukraine for allegedly trying to smuggle Navy missile technology out of the war-torn country, if Chinese citizens are involved, we will also safeguard Chinese citizens' legitimate rights and interests in accordance with the law.
And the arrest adding fuel to the long-standing Ukrainian claims that Beijing is backing Russia in its war efforts, despite projecting neutrality on the global stage. The president of Ukraine has accused China of sending weapons and explosives to Russia, remember. Ukraine has also sanctioned several Chinese companies Kyiv believes are supplying drone parts and other military technology to Moscow. Zelensky has also alleged that Chinese nationals have been captured fighting alongside Russian forces during combat operations in Ukraine. And according to reports, China is playing a significant role in supporting Russia's drone production that is enabling deadlier attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure and military positions. In fact, just 2 months ago, the Chinese president met the Russian president in Moscow, insisting that China remains neutral and has not armed either side. The Neptune missile system gained attention early in the Russia-Ukraine war when Ukraine reportedly used it to strike the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. And since then, Ukrainian forces have reportedly used the weapon in several high-profile strikes, including attacks on Russian oil facilities. And while missiles rain down and drones prowl Ukraine's skies, a very different kind of a battle is raging on in the country's corridors of power. In a bold move to shore up the war-battered economy, Ukrainian lawmakers are pushing to decriminalize pornography, arguing that taxing the adult content industry could deliver millions in desperately needed revenue for the country's defense. Take a look.
The brutal reality of total war has forced Ukraine to confront unthinkable choices. With its cities under relentless bombardment and its national treasury stretched to breaking point, a bold yet contentious legislative battle is unfolding in Kyiv. Ukrainian lawmakers are pushing to legalize the adult entertainment industry, aiming to harness its lucrative potential to directly fund the nation's desperate fight for freedom. Lawmakers in Kyiv say this isn't about cultural liberalization. It's a stark, pragmatic calculation to generate millions in much-needed tax revenue. A grim testament to the extraordinary pressures facing a nation fighting for its very existence. This dramatic shift comes after a petition spearheaded by OnlyFans model Svetlana Dvornikova surged past 25,000 signatures, forcing President Zelensky to respond that lawmakers are working on it. Ukraine is not alone in this debate. Countries such as Germany, France, Spain and the UK have legalized or decriminalized adult content production, regulating the industry and collecting taxes rather than driving it underground. As Russian missiles continue to strike and Ukraine's survival hangs in the balance, lawmakers are weighing every option. The question now is, will the legalization of porn become an unlikely weapon in Ukraine's fight for freedom and financial stability? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Our next story comes from the Arctic. A silent but heated battle taking place under the icy waters of the Arctic. For the first time ever, a U.S. nuclear-powered submarine has docked in Iceland, sending out a strong signal to Russia. You don't even know it yet, but Cold War rivalries are being revived. And what does this mean for Arctic security and global power dynamics? We're explaining this in tonight's edition of Gravitas Deep Dive. In a rare and historic move, the USS Newport News, which is a Los Angeles-class fast-attack nuclear submarine, has docked in Iceland. It is the first time a nuclear-powered submarine has ever made a port call to the island nation. Now, this is new because Iceland only began allowing nuclear-powered submarines into its territorial waters last year. For the US Navy, this visit is a major strategic milestone. The USS Newport News is armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles and advanced underwater surveillance systems. Its deployment not only strengthens America's deterrence, but also helps to protect critical undersea infrastructure like submarine cables, a rising concern after the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage in the Baltics. And here's why Iceland matters. Located in the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap, it's a key choke point for Russian submarines. From Murmansk This region controls access routes from the Arctic to the Atlantic. In fact, during the Cold War, Iceland was a critical outpost. In the year 1954, the US Air Force stationed fighter jets at the Keflavik Air Base to guard the Guyuk Gap. Anti-submarine aircraft like the P-3 Orion patrolled these waters, tracking Soviet submarines, and today that mission continues with advanced P-8 Poseidon aircraft rotations as well as NATO fighters defending Iceland, which has no air force of its own, by the way. And by docking in Iceland, the US submarine force gains a crucial support point for operations in the Arctic. Until now, their closest options were in Scotland or northern Norway, and both are hundreds of miles away. But the race to control the Arctic has been quietly brewing for years, and it's been heating up. The region is rapidly turning into a potential flashpoint, in fact. Climate change has opened up new opportunities for resource extraction, shipping, military activity. We've been telling you about this. And what are the key players? US and Russia, both with significant Arctic interests as well as territorial claims. So for all these reasons and more, Iceland is important strategically for the US, and this particular port call also mirrors past US moves. For example, in 2019, B-2 stealth bombers first landed in Iceland, thus expanding American reach into the Arctic. US and allies are nervous as Russia has allegedly stepped up its military build-up along Finland's border and ramped up submarine activity. In the Arctic waters, Russia considers the Arctic core, in fact, to its national security and economic future, with nearly 20% of its GDP linked to Arctic oil and gas projects. It has modernized Soviet-era bases and built new ones, like the Nagorskoye Air Base on Franz Joseph Land. It has radar systems, long-range missiles, runways capable of hosting MiG-31 interceptors. Russia also maintains the largest fleet of nuclear as well as conventional icebreakers globally, and these are crucial for Arctic navigation. It's also building nuclear-powered icebreakers like the Project 22220 series, which will escort commercial convoys through the Northern Sea route. But that's not all. Northern Fleet submarines like the Yasen M and Bore-class ballistic missile subs regularly patrol under the ice. In fact, in the 2021 Umka war games, 3 Russian nuclear submarines simultaneously surfaced through Arctic ice, a display of its full capability. NATO has historically viewed the Arctic as a low-tension zone, but that is changing with renewed focus on deterrence and preparedness. And NATO troops continue to hold training exercises in the region. Under exercises like the NATO Nordic Response 2024, troops from member states trained to fight in harsh conditions. Then Finland and Sweden's NATO accession also altering the security map for NATO in a way. With their membership, NATO has greater access to the Arctic through Finland's land border with Russia and Sweden's strategic coastline. Norway, Denmark and Iceland have also strengthened trilateral defense coordination, especially for maritime surveillance and undersea infrastructure protection. Already there are calls within NATO to adopt a formal Arctic strategy, recognizing it as a distinct theater rather than just a peripheral zone. Meanwhile, Iceland, which is a founding NATO member, has no standing army but plays a pivotal geostrategic role in this battle. After US forces left Keflavik in 2006, Iceland managed air policing through NATO rotations, but rising Arctic tensions have revived interest in permanent infrastructure. The Cold War never truly ended under the Arctic ice. As the US fortifies its presence and Russia flexes its muscles, the Arctic has officially become the newest theater of great power competition.